Let's head into this morning newscast with all the latest coming in from the United States as US President Donald Trump predicts a rapid economic recovery as the country prepares to lift lockdown restrictions. Now, the US President has said that the US will have a spectacular growth in the fourth quarter. Let's listen in to what Donald Trump had to say.
I don't know, but I can tell you the third and the fourth quarter in particular are going to be, I think, spectacular. We were talking about it with the executives. I think we're going to have a phenomenal third quarter.
The US President also boasted of the testing rate in the country, saying that the US has conducted nearly double the tests than any other country.
We've launched the most ambitious testing effort, likewise, on Earth. The United States has now conducted more than 5.4 million tests, nearly double the number tested in any other country, more than twice as much as any other country. Think of that.
Even as he bragged about high testing rate, Trump continued to predict a grim tally for the U.S. He said that he expects at least 70,000 Americans to succumb to COVID-19. This comes as the coronavirus death toll in the United States nears 57,000.
If an American president loses more Americans over the course of 6 weeks than died in the entirety of the Vietnam War, does he deserve to be reelected?
Yeah, we've lost a lot of people, but if you look at what original projections were, 2.2 million, we're probably heading to 60,000, 70,000. It's far too many. One person is too many for this. And I think we've made a lot of really good decisions. The big decision was closing the border or doing the ban, people coming in from China, obviously other than American citizens, which had to come in. Can't say you can't come in, you can't come back to your country.
The US President also slammed China. Trump reiterated that China should be held accountable for letting coronavirus spread to the rest of the world.
Well, Charlie, there are a lot of ways you can hold them accountable. We're doing very serious investigations, as you probably know. And we are not happy with China. We are not happy with that whole situation because we believe it could have been stopped at the source. It could have been stopped quickly and it wouldn't have spread all over the world. And we think that should have happened. So we'll let you know at the appropriate time, but we are doing serious investigations.
Let us get in a sense of perspective on Donald Trump's press briefing. For that, I'm joined in by our correspondent Jagriti Dave, who's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Let's quickly go across to Jagriti. Jagriti, a very warm welcome to you. Now, this briefing, of course, has been very controversial. That was more combative in nature after his controversial remarks about injecting disinfectant. Is it true that the White House reversed course after cancelling coronavirus press briefing on Monday? And what were the key highlights today?
Well, this early on in the day, it was announced that the briefing was not going to go ahead. But later on, that decision was indeed reversed. So we did get a press briefing and we did have the president answering questions from reporters, despite tweeting on Saturday that they were a waste of time and effort. So the highlights from today really was the president's talking about testing, expanding his administration's testing. He said he had a fantastic call with governors where he talked about the administration's blueprint for testing. Now, in the document that explains the blueprint, it said that the federal government really should be the supplier of last resort and that the onus is still on states for testing and that the federal government is playing a supportive role. And this comes as state governors, several of them, have been saying that the federal government needs to ramp up testing and they need to ramp up access to supplies. It's not just about the capacity for testing, it's about all the various bits and pieces of kit that are needed in order for those tests to be conducted and completed and processed. So that was one key element. The other key element, obviously, that clip that you played out of the question that he was asked about the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and all the speculations surrounding his health. He did say that he that he's aware, but he can't talk about it right now.
Right. Jagriti, President has also said that US is doing serious investigation into Beijing's actions, which of course is again another attack on China. Did he share anything beyond this?
No, he didn't. He didn't give any more information about what he meant by investigations into China. We, of course, know that he has suspended funding to the World Health Organization and is saying that his administration is conducting investigations into their handling of the pandemic in the early days. But he has been very critical of China in these press briefings. There's reports suggesting that the administration's strategy is now to pivot any criticisms of the pandemic and how it's been handled towards China, blaming the reason for the pandemic in the first place being China and their handling of it. So that is really a common theme that we've seen in the briefings, but we have no more information based on what the president has said on what he means by those investigations.
Right. Jagriti, you were talking about testing. Now, a number of US states, including Texas and Ohio, have announced plans to reopen businesses despite concern from state officials that they need to ramp up their testing capacity. The president has, of course, been reiterating the fact that he is ramping up testing, but has testing adequately been ramped up considering the numbers now touching 57,000 in the United States?
Well, testing is still an issue. Health experts are saying that there still isn't sufficient testing being done. This blueprint is talking about sentinel testing in specific high-risk areas like nursing homes, where we've seen huge numbers of infections and sad cases of fatalities. But what health experts are saying is that there is widespread testing in communities that's required, not just in vulnerable communities. And that's something that still hasn't really been seen yet. So what the president means when he talks about ramping up testing is talking about it clearly leaving it up to states again to do their own testing responses with support from the federal government.
Right, and that's a huge threat, especially he's taking into consideration that he's going to reopen the economy. So that's something he needs to keep in mind. Last but not the least, Jagriti, amid rumors that about Kim Jong-un's health, the US president has also confirmed that he is alive. Be it the pandemic or Kim Jong-un's health, is the Trump-Kim diplomacy not standing on shaky grounds currently?
Well, President Trump is clearly focusing on the upcoming election in November. He did say that the date was still going ahead. And, there are questions that are being asked about the president's diplomacy and his relations with other nations by his critics who look at how he has handled the World Health Organization, for example, his criticisms of the World Trade Organization. I mean, criticisms of China, for example. It's something that is that is happening across the political divide. It's not just Republicans and the Trump administration who are expressing concerns and questions over China's handling of the pandemic.
Right, Jagriti, thank you so much for bringing in all those details and sharing your precious perspective on this WION News broadcast.